Welcome in, you guys. With two franchise pillars out, three first round picks coming in, and somehow the Blues are playing some of their most interesting hockey of the season. Justin Falk to the Red Wings, Braden Shen is wearing the Islanders blue, and Doug Armstrong has officially kicked this thing from retool into full rebuild. Welcome to the Blues Note Show, brought to you by St. Louis Sports Show. I'm Brandon, your host, and I have with me Brandon and James as my co-hosts. Tonight, we're breaking down these deadline moves already. Wow. For the future of the St. Louis Blues. We'll start with Falk trade, Detroit, and what turning a 33-year-old defenseman into a first-round pick, a third pick, and a prospect really means for the blue line and cap sheet. Then we'll dig into the Braden Shen deal to the Islanders, the emotional side of moving our captain, and whether the return matches what he still as a player. After that, we're zooming out to look at life after the deadline. Robert Thomas, OT winner after against Edmonton, Druin and Snuggerud stepping up, and what the rest of the season should be about now that the rebuild has truly started. If you're watching on YouTube, drop a comment. Did Doug Armstrong do enough at this deadline, or should the Blues have gone enough further with this teardown? Hit subscribe so you don't miss any of our draft or off-season episodes, and let's start with the Falk trade to Detroit and why it might be a sneaky move that defines the next era of the Blues hockey. So, Brandon, James, with that all kind of being said, what did you guys think of this Falk trade that was made? I know we got a first, a third, Justin Hull, who's a defenseman, and then we also got a prospect as well. What did you guys think of this trade?
You go ahead, James.
Oh, okay. All in all, I thought it was a steal, pretty much. As we've seen in the past, Army's been pretty good at trying to get maximum return for players like this, and it seemed like the main grab of the year was a lot of teams that were making trades at the trade deadline to acquire people wanted players with some term as opposed to the rentals the previous years. Now, what we're looking at is Justin Falk gets traded. He's got 2 years left on his deal as he goes to the Red Wings, part of the Eisner plan. And Doug sprinkles some magic, gets himself a first rounder, a third rounder, a prospect, and Justin Hull, he's really just a depth defenseman. Nothing real great about that, but it just adds to the future for the draft. I believe the prospect, I think he was listed somewhere in the, I want to say like top 20 in the for the Red Wings. So he's a good pickup.
Yep.
It's hard to say what we're going to get out of that, but to me, it's the draft is super important. Now you get 3 first-round picks. Now I know that the Red Wings pick, the first round, is actually Colorado's from a previous trade, so that's going to be probably one of the last ones. But all in all, this works to the advantage of the Blues a lot. And on the other side of it, the Red Wings get Justin Falk, who's been a serviceable defenseman for the Blues. I know he's gotten a lot of flack by fans, because they basically said, well, we picked him up and didn't re-sign Pietrangelo, but nonetheless, I think he's been a very serviceable, good defenseman for this team. And I hate to see him go, but I love to see what we get back.
Yep.
Yeah, I was with the Falk trade. I was a little surprised with what they got. I guess. I mean, I know I was more surprised. The third round pick I expected, but that's kind of all I expect. I didn't think they would end up getting a first round pick out of it at the end of the day. And Justin Hall was in the game last night. I didn't think he did. I thought he had a pretty decent game. I don't think, like James, you mentioned, he's not going to be one of your core pieces going forward, but he's a good. According to Red Wings fans, the worst defenseman in the league. But I thought he's played pretty well. since
Didn't he
joining.
even get a goal or a point in one of the games in the past few days?
I think he got an assist.
Yeah,
That's what I
Carolina
thought.
game,
I think so.
was
Were
it?
we talking whole or Falk?
Whole.
Oh,
Okay, I was gonna say because I know Falk scored a goal for the Red Wings
yeah.
in one of the last
Yeah.
games, but yeah,
Yeah, I'm
yeah, I
talking
think he
about
at least got
Whole.
an assist. Yeah,
That's what I thought. But, no, and then the prospect, which I think it's pronounced Buchel Nikov. I think
It's the
I'm not
goalie.
really sure what we're really gonna really see from him right away because I think he ended up re-signing with the KHL and
yeah,
said that he wants to stay in the KHL. So that's kind of a thing that I'm not really sure where we're gonna really know that we're gonna be at with him quite yet, potentially.
Yeah.
right.
So in a way, it works out well, I think, for Detroit and St. Louis. It makes sense for Detroit. I mean, you get a defenseman who's a key veteran guy who's played on the power play, capable vet, and he knows how to push well into a playoff race. I mean, he's played with
Hmm.
Carolina, he's played with us, well into playoff pictures. And I mean, on the St. Louis Blues side, you got just a lot of young talent potentially that could come through, plus the picks, which I mean, don't get me wrong, between both the Shen deal and the Falk deal, between all the picks that we have and all of I would say the prospects and just some of the people that we've kind of picked up, could any of you guys see the Blues in a way take some of these picks to try to, if something were to happen, if they do start playing pretty well, that they could maybe use some of those picks in order to get maybe back into like the top 5 or something like that for a draft pick whenever it comes to the lottery or the upcoming draft to get one of those top wingers or defensemen.
I think it's possible that they do something like that, but kind of like I mentioned yesterday in our um, group chat about the draft lottery. Like I don't think at the same time a lot of Blues fans realize it's a draft lottery, so the chances, and yeah, obviously the lower you are at the end of the season in the standings, the better chance you have of getting a higher pick, but it's not guaranteed that you get a top 5 pick just because you finish
Hmm.
at the bottom
Right.
5 of the league. You could get thrown into, because it's what the top or the bottom, was it
I think
16 or
it's
16
16.
teams?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
because the bottom 16 get thrown into the lottery, and then however the order goes, once you're in the playoffs, once you get out, that's pretty much where you get thrown into from 17
From
on back.
right. So I don't know if there's just some confusion sometimes with, when you hear, oh, you're looking at a top pick in the draft this year. It's not the NFL style draft.
Hmm.
Chris mentioned your chances are higher the lower you are in the standings, but it's not
Yeah,
guaranteed that you're going to get a
yeah,
top
it's
5
not always a
pick.
guarantee.
You
Yeah,
know,
as of now, they got an 8.5% chance of getting the number 1 pick.
right?
So
Yep.
Yeah,
they're
I could see him doing that though. I could see him making a move to get back into, especially with the there's still the rumors of Bennington being kind of on the trade block when it comes to the draft.
Mhm.
Jordan Kyrou obviously is another name, but we'll just happen to see what comes at that point of the year.
Yeah. What do you guys think that this kind of has to do with, I guess, the defenseman on the right side, i.e., Parayko, Tucker, all the prospects that we have potentially coming into the team? Because obviously we've seen Parayko being potentially dealt over the deadline. He ended up nixing it with his not waiving his no trade clause. But yeah, I guess James, where do you see, I guess, the Blues kind of going with the right side of their defense with everything that they've kind of done?
Well, the first thing I could say right now is once he traded Falk, look what happens. They move Logan Mayu up to one of the top 2 spots. They paired him with Broberg, and he has been lights out amazing. Like,
Yeah.
I am thoroughly
Yeah.
impressed. I liked the kid from the initial trade. I was probably one of like 8 people in the St. Louis community that did actually like that trade. That wasn't a, you know, anybody who worked for like 101 or anything like that. And now it's really showing up. Like, he's contributed
Yeah.
with goals. Defensive prowess has been phenomenal, and I love the kid. I think he's going to blossom into a very solid, really good defenseman. And that doesn't happen if they don't trade Falk. He'll stay back in that third pairing. He doesn't get as much ice time, but now they, they're testing it just like everybody else. They're saying, you know what, kid, let's try this. Let's see what happens. See how you do. And so far, he's blown up amazingly. And when it comes to the prospects like Yurchek and so on and so forth, it just opens the door. Now this team has become, I think they're the second or third youngest team in the NHL
Yeah,
just from these trades alone. So that's a great sign. Let's give these kids a chance, because when you bring up these young guys to play, they get hungry and they play hard. And then it may not mean that we make the playoffs this year, who knows? But it's a nice sign for the future for next year about what they're going to do.
Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
Uh,
I I like the way things are looking defensively. For on at least I
yeah.
mean on both sides of it, my eyes.
Yeah, and that's something that this team has really struggled with. I would say over the last, what would you say, 3, 4, 5-ish years,
Hmm.
probably having a average to somewhat average defensive core. But now, I mean, you're looking at how the team is kind of getting structured, and it almost looks like everything is starting to kind of line up with this defense. I mean, you got Tucker, who's had his weaves and woes, but I mean, he's almost seemingly becoming a really good, I would say, defenseman for this team. You got Broberg lining out to being one of the top two on the defensive side for this team, and Mayu, who could potentially be right up there with Broberg in the top line at some point or another. Brandon, what with I know we already kind of touched on all of the draft picks and everything, but how big do you think the getting the extra first in this draft is shaping out for the draft strategy
Uh,
for the St. Louis Blues?
I think it'll be good. I think it'll open up some possibilities of getting guys that that are wanting out of where they are now, um, to land you know here in St. Louis. I I couldn't tell you off the top of my head who that possibility, you know, who they'd go after. I mean, obviously you have your big names,
Yeah.
Connor McDavid's name's getting floated out there again. Connor Bedard's name's getting thrown out there again, um, because his entry level contract's up at the end of the year. Uh, but I don't. I mean, having 3 first round picks. I mean, and that's you don't get that too often in in one season. Um, so to have
Mm-hmm.
those plus the couple of other picks, I think they'll use them wisely. Um, I didn't think they would use all of them last year, and I don't remember if they did. I thought they used all their 1st round picks.
The
Would they have
Blues,
2 this year?
the Blues, I think only had
It was
the
just
one
one.
last year whenever they picked
Yeah.
up Carbonneau.
Yeah.
That's
That
right.
was the only one they had. And
In the
I
year.
I made
Yep.
and I made a mistake. The Detroit first round pick is their first round pick.
Pick. Yeah,
So it also stands a chance that if Detroit doesn't make the playoffs,
yeah,
the Blues have, wherever they fall, wherever Detroit falls. So you have the
Yeah,
possibility of having
because
two.
Detroit has been struggling too as of late.
Yeah. Oh
yeah.
yeah.
They're not.
Yeah.
They're not
That's
in.
not a
Oh, yeah, they are right now. They
and
are.
it's not top 10
Yeah, they
protected.
currently are.
So
Yeah.
if
Uh,
that if they get something pretty high out of that draft, if they don't make the playoffs, then this could be a very bonus year for the Blues.
Yeah.
Yeah,
if we're only giving
I
up
would
two
agree.
guys in Folk and Shin at the same, and still having this type of um, kind of draft arsenal in a
Mhm.
way. I think yeah, I agree. I think this could be a good return at the same time. Plus everything else the Blues already have within their um, farm system. You can, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, for sure. Kind of moving on. Yeah, kind of moving on from the Falk trade. Kind of let's move into the Shen trade a little bit. Obviously, we know for the Blues side, we gave up Braden Shen. On the Islander side, we got a 2026 first round pick, 2026 third round pick, Jonathan Druin, and a goalie prospect in Marcus Gidlov. And now, if I'm not mistaken, Marcus Goodlove is one of those goaltenders that Islanders got a few years ago that was potentially within like a top 15 or top 20 potential goaltenders that they ended up picking up, that they seemingly thought that he could be pretty good for this, but also could kind of lean into the fact that, like, since St. Louis is looking at maybe dealing off Jordan Bennington, that they could be trying to improve their goalie prospects so that way they could have something to potentially fill into that gap after Bennington has moved on from this team. What are your guys' thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, Gildoff is fine. He's not earth shattering. It's a decent prospect. I don't know
Mm-mm.
where his future lies. I would imagine at best, he's probably going to be a depth AHL goalie. As you know, the Blues have made some trades for goaltenders to fill in the depth down there after they lost Carter Ellis or Colton Ellis. I'm sorry, wrong, getting all these names mixed up tonight. But again, some of the bits I've read about Gildoff is he's good, but he's kind of slow moving. But he's big. He's freaking huge. He's something like I think he's like 6'4", six
Isn't he like
five.
6'7"?
So, what 6'7"? Yeah, yeah, he's apparently some huge freaking. I know I had to do it. I couldn't help it. I got kids. Let me be. But he's got potential. It just hasn't really blossomed yet. But he's 20 years old, and
Yeah.
I do recall that Bennington, when he was that age, he wasn't very good. So who knows? Who knows where this goes? That's the way prospects are.
Mhm.
It's, just like the draft, it's all crapshoot. And all you can hope for is, hey, if he comes into something, he does solid, either he benefits the Blues by coming up and playing well, or he gets traded for something in the future. And that's the best thing you can look at with it is at the end of the day, Army trades two players, acquires eight, and saves, the Blues, I think somewhere around $4 million against the cap for next year. So it's a huge bonus.
For
Yeah,
sure.
I would agree.
Um, Now on the St. Louis side, obviously with losing your cup captain, a phenomenal leader for this team, a fan favorite, obviously. Uh, Brandon, do you think with what Armstrong did, do you think he picked the right moment to get rid of or to move on from Braden Chen with everything kind of going on with this team and the kind of the movement to where they're wanting to go with the future?
Well, I think the comments from Braden Shin the last couple of days, since that trade have spoke enough on that. He's brought up the other day. He's like, when you get asked to waive your no trade clause 2 years in a row, it's like I think that's a sign that the organization is ready to move on, from you. And it's like, yeah. I mean, it sucks at the same time. And the Blues are, as long as I've been watching them, have traded a captain every 3 years, 3 to 4 years. You look at David Backes, or I wouldn't say you traded Alex Pietrangelo. You kind of just let him walk, but Um, you know, he's another guy. Look at it, and then um, who was after him? No, and then it was Shin.
O'Reilly.
O'Reilly. That's right.
Hmm. Yeah.
I
Yep,
thought
O'Reilly.
I couldn't remember if yeah. So then you traded O'Reilly off too, and then you traded Shin off after that. So it's not necessarily a surprise at the same time that they traded another captain. It just seems at
Yeah.
the right time. And when things are the right time, they're the right time.
Yeah. With the, I guess, with the move of getting Jonathan Druin, James, what's realistic to expect from Jonathan Druin with having such a fresh start that he's having? Because obviously we've seen that he hasn't really lived up to being a top 3 pick that the Islanders thought that he would come out to being.
Hmm.
And already kind of see him a little bit here in St. Louis of what he's already kind of done. What do you think that this fresh start for Jonathan Druin is what he needed in order to maybe get to that level of play that everybody has kind of expected him to be at?
Yeah, I at this point in his career, I would give anything if it was the Jonathan Druin of about 5 years ago
Yeah.
when he was playing with Colorado and he's just lighting it up, just an absolute dominant force. Unfortunately, that's not where it stands. He had a little bit of a checkered past when it came to things like contracts. He was kind of back and forth with those things, and that's what led to him going you know, from Montreal to Colorado. That trade happened, and that turned out to be a good move for Colorado. But then he goes to the Islanders. He doesn't really perform, and he'll even admit, excuse me, he'll admit he was not doing very well. And now he gets to be on a team with not a lot of expectations, and this is an opportunity for him that if he's put in the right spot, I think he'll bode well for the team. He's a great power play guy. He's it still can light up the lamp, still has skill, and he'll definitely be a good third line winger. I kind of envision that. Maybe they put him with Thomas every once in a while, but you can't do it right now with that line going. But it's going to be good, and it's a cheaper deal than Braden Shen, and I think at the end of the day, he might end up being more productive point wise than Shen will be over the next couple of years for the Blues.
Yeah. He's already got one goal as
Yeah,
blue anyway.
for sure.
So,
Right, right.
Yep. And I feel like just a little bit that I've seen him already kind of contributing on the team, I feel like he could be a really good addition. As what you guys have said, he already has one goal for the Blues, and I feel like the more and more time that he initially gets playing with these guys, the better he's going to get, along with like guys like Jimmy Snuggerud, Logan Mayu, Jake Neighbors. I mean, we've already seen Neighbors really coming into his own over the last several years with this team, but I feel like it's something that he's really developed more into the type of player that he's looking to be over the last couple of years. And even with guys like Philip Broberg and Dylan Holloway, if Dylan Holloway can never really stay healthy. But I feel like that with where this team is at and just the time that Jonathan Druin has had with the previous teams that he has had, like you guys said, I feel like this is something that could be more beneficial for him to be able to get like that second chance at a fresh start somewhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you? Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine.
Did you guys want to touch on anything else with this trade before we move on to our third part of the show tonight?
Yeah, I'll say this real quick. Like everything I've read about the Shen trade, and besides what Brandon highlighted on about, he's been asked twice to waive his no trade clause. The funniest part of it was that both the Islanders and Blues were in the same hotel, and
I did. I thought that was kind of
from what I've heard, the Islanders GM, and I cannot remember his name off the top of my head. I think it's Darsh is his name.
Mm.
and head coach Patrick Waugh actually went and spoke with Shen in the hotel. And Shen even said that kind of sealed the deal with the trade, that he actually got to talk to them in person and said that they could use them. They need these things and whatnot. It and that kind of opened Shen's door for a really good chance to contend for another Stanley Cup, because the Islanders are a great team. So I'm happy for them there.
Yeah.
And again, it's kind of cool that they all shared the same hotel room and everything. And it panned out really well for everybody in the long run. At the end of the day, I wish Shen the best of luck. I really hope that he contributes and does well for the Islanders. He's going to be a good veteran presence for them, something that they need. And I think it's going to be good for him. And coming back to the Blues, like I said before, this is a good move for their future.
Of course. Because this pick for the Islanders, it's their pick in the draft. It's not anybody.
No, this is the Colorado one.
Yeah.
The Red Wings was the Red Wings one. This one was from Colorado. So
Gotcha. So
again,
it's going to be like a 29 through
it's going to be
32, somewhere in there.
It's going to be a late first rounder, no matter what. So
no, it'll be 16 when the Blues make the playoffs and knock Colorado out in the first round is 7.
Bingo, you're right. Hey, drop it. We're done. I'm out of here. Peace out. Go Blues.
All right. So kind of touching from that, moving on into our third segment with where the direction of this team is going and everything that they've kind of looked at, depending on whether it's a retool or rebuild. We have a new core. Obviously, the timeline is obviously somewhat changed with everything that has kind of happened or brought in onto this team. They've been near the bottom and kind of negative goals, but with everything that's kind of happened over the last couple, I guess, week or so since the trade deadline, they've obviously had, I think it's 7-1-1 over the last 9 games. What is your guys' kind of thoughts on what the Blues have been kind of doing?
Not surprised. On paper, this is what this team was supposed to be. This is how this team was supposed to be on paper. Obviously that on paper compared to being on the ice and in game actions is a lot different. But this was the team that we expected to see throughout the whole season, not just the last 25 games of the year. They've scored now 15 straight games of 3 or more goals, which I think is, I don't know, but to me that's enough to say that your offensive side of things is there, and I don't think at the same time your goaltenders were your issue. I think they made some change in their defensive play and their defense philosophy that's helped them over the last couple of weeks, because it's not just it's not the Vancouvers that they're beating, it's not the Flames that they're beating. They're beating really good hockey teams in Minnesota, Anaheim, Carolina, Edmonton. It's not little knockover teams. They're legit cup tenders at the same time that they're beating right now.
For sure. James, with everything that they've kind of done with, obviously with moving Shen, moving Justin Falk, do you see, obviously with the new core of, like, you've seen Thomas, Cairo, Neighbors, Snuggerud a little bit, Hofer, and like all the pieces that we've seen in our prospects, with this reset that they're kind of talking about, what time frame do you feel like? Do you think that's like 1 to 2 years, 2 to 3 years? How long do you think that the process of how everything has kind of gone over the last several weeks into this past week? Do you think it's going to be that, or do you think it's going to be longer?
Well, the it's a tough question to answer right now
Right.
because of the moves they've made. Yes, they've bolstered their draft capital, picking up some new prospects with the trade deadline, trading away some of their older veterans for a younger core. And as of right now, thanks to the month of March, because apparently it's the Blues month, your young guys have really stepped up. Snuggerud is now up to 15 goals. He set a Blues rookie record. I don't recall what it is, but again, he's contributing well. Holloway's
Yep.
healthy, performing the way we're hoping he was supposed to do this year. Thomas has come back and has returned to his old Rob Thomas self. And when it comes to the timeline, it really, like, the off season is going to be a telltale sign as to where that timeline is going to go. If you put a gun to my head right now, I'd say give it 3 years. Ideally, what I want to see is, I don't want them to, and honestly, I don't want them to have that window right now because the Central Division is stacked and it's ridiculous. Let's not forget, you have the Winnipeg Jets tomorrow. The Jets were supposed to be a contending team, and they're in the bottom of the cellar along with us. That wasn't supposed to happen when you have,
Right.
uh, when you have Hellebuck as your goaltender and all this. But again, Dallas, Minnesota is coming to its own big time, picking up Quinn Hughes. Colorado is an absolute giant. These are teams that are in their primes, that are in their contending window. So if the
Yeah.
Blues can, if you give it 3 years, that's fine because at that point, those teams will start to falter. I think Avalanche probably don't have a lot of time left
They're
just
old.
because their
They're
core
old.
is really old. The core is super old. They literally have a guy that has gray hair on their team. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, for crying out loud. So and let's not forget Kale McCarr, although he's one of the best defensemen in the league, he's had a lot of injury issues over the years. And, you know, even though the salary cap goes up, they
Yep.
have a lot of heavy contracts. And they're going to get that point where, like we saw in the past with the Blackhawks and, uh, another in hindsight, Washington, Tampa Bay, these teams that they start getting old players who make a lot of money. They can't move those contracts out very well, so they either trade off every asset imaginable to keep alive, or they go, you know, in a downward spiral and they have to rebuild. At that point, in those 3 years' time, I think the Blues will be competitive. They'll have guys like Yurchek, Carbonneau, and other and all these other players will just get better and better and hit their primes at a perfect time frame for them to come in for their competitive window. So I feel like the timeline has always been in that 3 to 5 years, and right now we're in about that year 2 to 3. I mean, no matter what, you could say what you will about, they made the playoffs last year, they're better than this, but I still think deep down that this team was in a 2 to 3 year truly competitive window from here on out.
Yeah.
Yeah. For
I don't-
sure.
I don't see them doing the same thing they did last year. As much as I, want to say they end up they end up getting in. It's going to take a lot to get in. More
More
this
than
year.
more than last year.
Yeah.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, you got Utah, who's been playing lights out. Seattle, who's
Yeah.
been playing a lot better as of late.
Right.
I mean, you got a lot of the teams in the West, especially those middle ground teams that are like just right there on the cusp of getting into the playoffs.
Mhm.
That it's going to be a hard time. I feel like get into that zone of like getting those wins in order to knock off one of those two wild card teams, because obviously in the Central, you're not getting into those top three spots. Those top three spots are more or less already spoken for.
Yeah.
You're
Right.
gonna have to look into getting into one of those wild card spots.
Like I said, the only and best chance the Blues have to get in the playoffs is wild card 2. I don't think they even catch Utah at this point.
Right.
Yeah.
But the way that wild card 2 spot, everyone just doesn't want it. So I could honestly see the Blues just be like, all right, well, since none of you dorks are going to take it, I'm in on this. It might happen. I don't know.
Who knows? I guess one other question that I do have, and it's been kind of all over the place, and it wasn't really something I was really going to touch on because I figured they weren't going to really do anything with it as of right now. But was the whole question of who the next captain was going to be for this team, because we've never seen we obviously we knew it wasn't going to be any time before the end of the season, but I guess on the regards of once Alex Steen takes over as GM, who do you guys potentially see as being put up as the next captain for the St. Louis Blues? James, I'll let you go first.
Yep. Yeah, no problem. Truth be told, since he's come back, since he's come back and started to dominate, who I want to be their captain is Robert Thomas. Truly is, because I think trading away Falk, trading away Shen, that brought something different in Thomas. You heard the interviews after the trade deadline, how he said, he was never asked to waive it. And then he comes in and he says, look, I want to lead. I want to win a cup with this team again.
Yeah.
I think somebody like him, he's been kind of in the background in terms of a leadership standing, because you had guys like, let's face it, you had a guy like Shen, who is a very, strong captain. You have Pareko, you have Falk. These are veteran players who have been through a lot of wars together, along with Thomas. But Thomas has been here from the up, because he was here the year they won the cup, his first year, and some downs. And I think he can bring a different type of leadership to this team that I think that will bring something different that the Blues haven't had in a while. The last multiple captains they've had over the years have been guys that were usually strong in their voice, strong in their opinion, kind of like an in-your-face person. I think Thomas is more of a guy that will lead by both example and just lead the right way with this younger core. Because if you look at some of the captains around the league, these guys are the engines of the team. And they're not just the engine, but usually they're the best player on the team. I know Nathan McKinnon's not the captain, but he's an assistant. And Landeskog is a great captain. Let's go to, Sid the Kid himself, Sidney Crosby. He's probably, this generation's best captain ever. And he's done nothing but lead by example, lead everywhere. And, guys like that, they're built up starting off as not a captain. They have great guys in front of them, and basically they pass the torch to them. And once they take over as captain, those best players, they truly lead the team. And I think Thomas is ready for it. That's my money. That's who I want to see.
I'm gonna go grab my Colton Pareko jersey because I think he could be in line as well.
I do love CP55. I love that guy. And if he's the captain, I don't get mad at that at all, because I love Colton.
I don't know. The only other one that I could think of that the Blues would throw in as a wild card is Buchnevich.
Really?
I think it's I wouldn't put a whole bunch of eggs in that basket, but I could see it happening at the same time.
Do you think another dark horse is Jake Neighbors?
I don't think he's there yet.
I don't think he's there either. A lot of people say it, though. I've heard it all over that they think Neighbors should be that. I'm like, he's 24 years old.
Yeah,
he is young, and I know he's a leader and he really does it well, but I just don't think he's ready for that mantle yet.
That's why I think some of the reason Bedard didn't get the captaincy in Chicago already.
Right. Well, now they traded their captain, so
yeah.
I felt like it more or less could come down to more than likely Robert Thomas. However, if it was going to be on the fact of he got moved somewhere in the summer, or if Pareko or any of the veteran guys get moved in the summer, because a lot of those types of players I didn't really see as something that was get moved at the deadline. That was never really something of that big of a trade. You never really see those types of things happen at the deadline. I felt like if that was something that they went through and made a trade for Robert Thomas at the draft or somewhere during the offseason, I could potentially see Neighbors being the next captain, but more than likely, I was going to say that it was, in my opinion, if the team stayed the way that it was going to be right now, I could see it being Robert Thomas.
Yeah, I wouldn't be against that, but I could again another. I mean, you talk about dark horse. I wouldn't say dark horse names, but what about Philip Broberg?
It's maybe he got in. Him and Neighbors got alternate captains after
Yeah.
the trades. So you got
Yeah.
Thomas, Pareko, Broberg, and Neighbors as your A's. So who knows?
And to be honest, I don't think Thomas or Pareko are going anywhere. I think they're both. I think Pareko is a Blue for the rest of his career.
Yeah,
I don't think he's going anywhere.
I would agree.
yeah. I think he's gonna. I think he's gonna have the. By the time all said and done, he's gonna be the Blues' all-time games played. I think he's gonna be there. I think that's where he's destined.
Yeah.
Wasn't he just like a few games behind Bernie Federko or one of the Blues for all-time defensemen for the Blues? I thought it was one of them that he was coming up on.
I think he's like 4th or 5th right now on the team
Mm-hmm.
overall. I think it's something like that. He's around that area. I can't remember what it is though. But yeah, you're right about that, Brandon.
Yeah, I just don't see him moving on.
Yeah.
All right, so I know we've kind of put it up here multiple different times, but with the playoffs coming up and the OT loss to the Islanders, the comeback versus the Oilers, and everything that this team has kind of done over the last stretch of time, obviously with us being 7-1-1, what would you prioritize for the rest of the year? Development, minutes, system install, or chasing moral victories? I'll toss this one to James.
Really, it's all of it at the end of the day, because when you put in these younger players, this is kind of that, all right, you got to prove it to me now. Like the ball is in the court of this core. The ball is in, Thomas's hands. He's saying all the right things. Let's see him prove it. Can he really be a leader of this team? And also, like, can Snugger continue to blossom and turn into possibly that shooting sniper guy that we've been begging to see the Blues acquire for Robert Thomas, so he can be that upper echelon center that he can be. So there is a lot of moral victories here. There's a lot of personnel that has to show their worth, because the offseason comes around. I still think a lot of guys are available. I don't think there's truly a protected person necessarily. I think, and when you start looking at things like the ice time and performance, one, like, we haven't even talked about Jordan Kyrou. We don't know it. It almost seems like signs are leading where he may not be here at the end of after this year, but that's a different story. That's a different talking point. But at this point right now, this team has nothing to lose and they have everything to prove. And all you can do is go out there and play the best hockey you can, showing that, with the right schemes put in by head coach Jim Montgomery and the coaching staff, that you can actually perform well and play well. And I think, too, another moral thing that we're going to look at, a moral victory of probably Joe Hofer is going to be your number one goaltender from here on out. He's been absolutely dominant. And I know Bennington has really performed extremely well since the Olympic break. Both guys have been playing amazing since then. But I think now we're going to see that change of the guard. I think we're going to see Hofer come in as the starter, as the number one, the 1A, and Bennington will still be that 1B that really contributes well. So really, they've got nothing to lose, guys. There isn't any major expectations other than for them to go out there, compete, and do the best they can night in, night out.
Yep, for sure. I would agree with that. I mean, I don't really, at this point in the season with where their position is at, I don't think you really have anything to necessarily lose at this point to where
Right.
it's just kind of one of those things that you just go out and play and just make the most and get as much all the minutes that any of the guys can take, whether you're a veteran, whether you're a prospect, whether you're just coming in the team and just getting your first minutes as a blue. This is the time to really do it and maximize the output that you can get while you're on the ice.
Shout out Theo Lindenstein.
Yeah.
Yep, for sure. I guess one of the last few questions that I have, both of you guys name one player that you want to see most make the make the extra steps before the season ends.
Ooh.
Good question.
Start with Brandon on this one.
I have no words with the way Jimmy Snuggerud has been playing the last couple of weeks. He's not the guy that I'm thinking of. The guy I'm thinking of is Dvorsky. I feel like his the hype around him has faded a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
And he hasn't had a spectacular, I guess, stats season, if you want to put it that way. Compared to, I guess, what we thought was going to be, how we thought he was going to be coming into the NHL. And it might just be him having to adjust to the game a little bit at the same time. But I think that would be my guy to watch the rest of the season to see, what next steps he can take with some of the moves that the Blues have made. And, at the deadline and over the last, couple of weeks.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I could definitely say the same thing about Dvorsky. I mean, especially after seeing the amount of production and everything that you saw from him over the Olympic break with Slovakia. I figured once he came back from that, I figured you would see him going guns blazing out on the ice. Mm-hmm. And I mean, over the but it's almost been like there's been some games where you haven't really seen the effort from him.
Yeah. That would be my pick. Dvorsky.
Mm-hmm. I like it.
James, what about you?
I'm going to go back with the guy I talked about earlier, since they literally traded, the person that was right in front of him. I'm going with Logan Mailloux. I think, he was not good at all at the beginning of this year. A lot of people were so mad that, we lost Zach Bolduc, who's probably going to be the next Brett Hull and we picked up Logan Mailloux instead. And now look, Logan Mailloux's been phenomenal, and he still has so much to blossom into and really show his true worth. He's gonna prove to, it's his time to shine now. He's dominating, playing a great defensive game, chipping in offensively now. Whereas I really want him to shove it in the face of a lot of fans out there. Sorry, I love Blues fans to death, but I really want him to shove it and say, you know what, I am better than Zach Bolduc, and I'm going to show you why.
Zach Bolduc hasn't scored games either.
I know, but he's so good.
And especially with Logan Mailloux, how you've seen him kind of take on more power play minutes, getting into more of like the rushes and everything for the Blues. That's something that he has ultimately said that he wants to be more a part of for this team. And even whenever he was part of Montreal before he came over to the Blues, was that he wanted to be in those types of positions. And since the Blues have dealt Justin Falk, he's getting those opportunities now.
Yeah. He had two.
My go ahead. Sorry,
I was just saying. Mailloux had two in last night's game. He had two tripping penalties, and there was one of them, the second tripping penalty, I think might have saved the game from going 3-0. It's kind of like a intentional pass interference.
Oh yeah. Sometimes you got to take those penalties. That's they call that a smart penalty.
Yeah, It was a good one at the right time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, Brandon.
Oh, you're good. And kind of, I know we didn't really get to touch on it much, but with all the trade rumors that kind of floated around between Cairo and then what we saw from, uh, I guess, more of the rumors with Bennington as well, and even what we saw with Pareko, do you think something happens with some of those guys over the summer? I know we've kind of touched on it earlier in the show that we probably won't see much happen with Pareko, but do you think with the extent of the kind of trade that we would be talking about that we could see something potentially happen with either Cairo, Bennington, or some of the other bigger names on the St. Louis Blues team once the offseason starts, depending on what happens with the team?
Oh no,
Lost Brandon.
we lost Brandon. Well, to answer his question, I I don't see I don't see the Blues trading Colton Pareko. I don't see them trading Robert Thomas. I don't see them. It you probably stab me in my left thigh for this one, but I don't see them trading Jordan Kyrou at the same time. I think the one name that gets traded, if he does get traded, is Jordan Bennington. Can you not hear me either? Whoa. James.
Brandon, I cannot hear you, man. I'm sorry.
Oh, hold on. There's Brandon. James, can you hear me now?
All right, sorry about that. Can you hear me, James and Brandon?
Mine's not working.
I can hear you, Brandon, now.
Okay. I can't. James? I don't know. Having some technical difficulties, apparently.
Yeah, I do apologize for that. My internet is being kind of wonky. But did you guys hear my question before my internet kind of got interrupted?
I did. I was in the middle of answering it, and James, hold on. James said he couldn't hear me, so I don't know what was. I don't know if he still can't hear me or what the deal is, but oh, but
Something must be going on with his internet now too. But
yeah,
go ahead with your part of it.
Well, I just said I don't.
Before we go further.
I just said I don't think that the Blues trade Robert Thomas. I don't think they trade. I don't think they trade Colton Pareko, and I don't think at the same time they don't. I don't think they trade Jordan Kyrou. The one name I do think that they do end up trading is Jordan Bennington. That's the only one that I think could, if the opportunity is best. We'll put it that way. If they don't feel like they're getting the best return for Bennington, then I don't think they pull that trade.
All right, James, what were your thoughts on this subject? I don't know if you end up answering earlier or not.
But. No, I got worried. I thought I couldn't hear anything, so that's why I kind of left, came back. I did catch a little bit of Brandon's part, and I'm going to change my thoughts on it. I think I think Cairo and the Blues I think they've come to that conclusion that this is the end. I think they're going to find something. I don't know where he goes, how it works. And I think Bennington gets traded only on the basis of
Mhm.
which one of these contending teams needs a goaltender. We see the Oilers and the poor decisions they've made with their goaltending choices.
Yeah.
They gave up Stuart Skinner for Tristan Jari, who was sent to the minors. They were trying to release him from Pittsburgh, and Edmonton thinks, well, this is the guy that's going to lead us to the Stanley Cup. So obviously, they've made some bad choices, and they've got one more year of Connor McDavid. One guaranteed year. We don't know, will he continue to resign? I don't know about that, but I think they're going to have a come to McJesus moment where it's going to be, hey, we need goaltending. Can we please try and get somebody? I could see a team like that make a huge push for Bennington if that's what Bennington wants to do. I'm not, again, I don't know. But I firmly believe that Kyrou is traded. It just seems like that's the way it's going with the overall drop in his ice time and just not giving him a lot of chances. I think they're at that point where, hey, we got to say goodbye. And I think Bennington is a possibility.
Yeah.
Okay. I've personally thought that I thought for a while that Thomas was going to be one of the ones that was going to be outed, but seeing how the comments that he's made recently and how he's been playing, and then just the decrease in minutes that we've seen from Cairo, I could almost see something along the lines that Cairo gets moved, kind of like what James has said. Kind of seeing the route that they're kind of going with where Hofer is kind of being played and how Bennington is getting played. I could almost see Bennington getting moved. And I don't know if that's something that what we've seen in rumors over before the deadline to where Minnesota was contemplating looking at something of dealing just for Wallstead to somebody. If I don't know if that's something that they look to try to make a move like that to bring in another goaltender to be behind Hofer. Those are all kind of angles that you can kind of go with different things, but I don't know if that's something that Minnesota would ultimately do. Those are
crash out with Bennington as a Minnesota Wild. Oh,
I'd probably throw up in my mouth.
yeah.
Yeah.
We all know that would come back to bite us in the butt.
More than likely, but something that I could potentially see, but who knows? Those are all just kind of those are all kind of things that I could potentially see. I out of the 3 or 4 bigger names in St. Louis, the only ones that I could really see getting moved over the offseason, in my opinion, could potentially be Cairo or Bennington. I don't think you see Parayko leave. I don't think you see Thomas leave, just on the fact of their production since the Olympic break.
Right.
Yep.
And honestly, I deep down don't think Thomas was. I think it was more that when they said everyone's available, I think teams were coming up and saying, "What do you want for Thomas?" And Army is like, "Give me," literally was trying to rob the bank.
He wanted an arm and a leg for Thomas,
but it's fair. He is top. He's a very. I mean, I get it. Like, I think he does. It should be a bigger trade than, honestly, it should be bigger than the Quinn Hughes trade. I really do. I honestly do, and not only because he's productive center, but he's got term on a really, really cheap contract in the NHL. If he signed,
especially what the cap is going to be after next year,
it'll be over 100 million.
8.1 is going to be cheap in the league.
Oh yeah, that's a third line center contract at this point.
We talked about that last year when we were doing these.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, everybody was complaining about Cairo's contract, but I mean, you're looking at it now, it's like, shit, Thomas and Cairo were both at like middle 6 equivalent contracts.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you're looking at one, what is it, 103 million currently, and then you're looking at 113 or 114 million at the start of next season. Yeah, it's going to be. like you're looking at those contracts now and just thinking like, what are we doing here?
Right.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be interesting to see where the team is going to be at over the next course of the several weeks leading into the end of the season, where they're going to be at in the playoffs. But do you guys have anything that you guys wanted to touch on before we close out for tonight? Brandon, start with you.
Let's just see how the rest of the season plays out. Roll with what's going on right now. Be happy that they're winning, because we could be in a very similar situation to what Vancouver is going through right now. Which is you don't we don't it's bad.
We don't want that.
It's bad.
No, that's
Bad.
that's horrible.
The fact that they're at this point where they can still sneak into the playoffs and get into the playoffs, just take it how it is. Just roll with the tide.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. I mean, because I know we haven't really touched on it at all, really, in this episode. But if for those out there that want to know where the Blues are at in the standings, I mean, they're in the wild card standings for the West. They are 5 points outside of a wild card position, right behind the LA Kings.
Yeah.
Which the Blues are sitting at 64 points. The Kings are at 69.
San Jose won. So that puts them at 70. Puts San Jose at 70. So they're now.
I didn't know how they ended up doing tonight. So 70 points. So 6 now.
6 points, yeah. Which is great because you got 2 games coming up in the next 2 weeks against San Jose.
Yes, you do.
So
and one against the Kings and like 1 or 2 against the Mammoth. So there's a lot of things that can happen here.
For sure. James, any last thoughts before we close out?
Like I was talking to you guys before in the chat, the Blues have not drafted a top 5 forward since 1973. Obviously, none of us were born then. None of us, even me. So as much as I really want them to finish in that, I hate to say that. I'd love to see them draft that forward. I just love when they start like really playing that great competitive hockey. So I'm still a huge Blues fan no matter what. I want to see what happens here. It's not going to be easy. 10 of these games are against teams that are in the playoffs and ready to go.
Yep.
Out of the next 17. So we don't know what's going to happen. But what I've come to notice over the last few years, there's 4 guarantees in this life. We live, we die. We tell our hockey team to shoot the puck more, and the Blues seem to dominate in the month of March and April. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, for sure.
Need to hang that on the wall somewhere.
What?
I didn't think it was going to be even a possibility of even the Blues doing something remotely close to what they did last season, and they are fantastically proving me wrong.
Oh shit!
I don't know whether to be happy about that or disappointed about that, since where we were at the Olympic break and kind of potentially having a chance in the lottery of having either Gavin McKenna or Ivar Stenberg or Keaton. It just those possibilities alone is just like, oh, we could be here, and now we're there, and I was a little disappointed, but you know what? I'm at the point now to where I'm just gonna be happy with wherever this team ends up coming out of, because I have a feeling either Doug or Alex is gonna be doing something before the draft that's gonna make everybody in St. Louis just immensely happy.
Absolutely. I agree.
Yeah.
So I'll end it on that note. Thank you guys for coming out tonight, for joining us on this episode of the Blues Notes Show. Be sure to join us on our next episode whenever it gets a little bit closer to the end of the season, and we're going to talk a little bit more of where they're at, where they're going to be at on the potential draft locations. But thank you again. Like, subscribe, leave comments for whatever questions you may have. And we will see you guys in the next episode. Peace.